Welcome to the Angler Talk Podcast with Chris and Aaron. Brought to you by FishingMagicianTV.com.
Hey, what is going on, everybody? It's Chris and Aaron back with another episode of the Angler Talk Podcast. How's it going, brother?
Good, buddy. Good, man. Really good. Looking forward to this episode, man. Go over some of the ins and outs of what makes us tick and, what makes us successful on the water.
Yeah, man. The Tuesday, I'm going to have to do a little procedure, so I'm going to be down for about 6 weeks. But I've heard you've been getting it in fishing, man. I've seen a lot on the old social webs.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've been exploring this new lake. It's about a year new, so they opened up headwaters in Fellsmere. I mean, if you type that in YouTube, bud, you'll see a ton of videos. I mean, everybody's been out there, and everybody's trying to catch this, elusive 10, 12-pound bass. And, Chris, when I tell you it's a possibility on this lake, man, it's a possibility. The hydrilla is all over the bottom. The cover is amazing. And, I mean, just the structure the bass have is like endless, dude. It's literally what you could dream of being in a bass lake.
That's awesome, man. I mean, when it comes to freshwater fishing, now this is pretty pathetic, but my personal best largemouth bass and my only ever largemouth bass was 11.5 inches.
Yeah, hey, I mean, a lot of guys don't explore this side of freshwater. I was lucky enough. I grew up in a town called Collins Lakes, man. We were surrounded by old cranberry bogs that were turned into lakes, and it was just the thing to do, dude. You got your bike, you got a rod, and you went out and you just spent time on the water. So, luckily I was able to do that. But I get it. Trust me, I got a lot of friends that never touch freshwater, bro.
Yeah, I hear you, man. So you sent me some pictures of some pigs that you got out there, man. How many fish did you get?
So the first trip I ever out on headwaters, we caught 35, 37 something bass, dude, and I mean, a majority of them were like 5 pounds over, dude. And a couple, I'd say 3 or 4 of them were close to that 8-pound range. And that was the first day ever. Like, not knowing the lake, dude, just going out there in my flats boat, running down the friggin' canal and saying, should we go left? Should we go right? I don't know, man. That looks good over there. And we just picked it and did it, dude. I burned out my trolling motor. I wasted both friggin' 12-volt batteries on the friggin' trolling motor, and we put in the work, dude. Let me tell you, it was eye-opening to know in my backyard I have one of the best fisheries probably in the country, dude. I'm not even exaggerating.
That's freaking awesome, man. What were you throwing? Live bait or artificials?
No, so a lot of the guys that fish that lake, a lot of the guides that fish that lake, and I mean even the locals, they'll throw live shiners. I didn't know this. I mean, again, like I said, super new to this lake. And when I think of fishing freshwater, it's all artificial, dude. Like buzz baits, finesses, jigs. I mean, you're going to be punching some head cover. And I went out there with a box, well, really all my saltwater gear. Luckily, I had a guy on the boat that fishes freshwater just as much as me. So we kind of collaborated. And we had like a couple spinner baits, a couple buzz baits. But I will tell you, this outfished everything on the boat, dude. These guys right here.
Zoom flukes, huh?
The Zoom freaking flukes, bro. And when I tell you the white ones and fishing saltwater, dude, I had stock in this freaking company, bro. I got, every color known to man in my boat. So I needed a worm hook, dude, and just a large worm hook. I ran it up the leader and I did a uni and I literally threw flukes the entire day. And I outfished this kid. I mean, probably 5-1, dude, with a friggin' fluke. To the point he switched over to a fluke.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, when it comes to freshwater, it is something that I want to get more involved with this year. Over the winter, I had a lot of time on my hands, so I started watching a lot of YouTube videos, and I stumbled across a page of a guy who fishes out of Alabama. His name is Mojo. Now, he's associated and he's part of the Guggen Squad, Guggen Baits. And for those who don't know, Guggen Baits and Guggen Squad are basically like the kings of YouTube fishing. And I got to tell you, man, I started watching his videos and I started finding other channels of guys who are in the whole Guggen thing. And I really like the brand, as far as the baits are concerned, the R&D that they put into making the baits. Now, mind you, I'm not getting paid to say this. This is just my personal opinion. And I have a feeling that I'm going to go out there with a different perspective this year about freshwater and, get it done for sure.
Yeah, dude, especially if you head this way, man. I mean, I've already got guys that I grew up with in New Jersey that are taking trips to Florida, and we're literally planning trips on this lake already, dude, because this lake is one of two, and it's really not like you can't see it as one lake. I mean, they flooded farm fields, and they made this headwaters, and it runs into Stick Marsh, or Stick Marsh runs into headwaters, so it's like there's a group of these really phenomenal fisheries, dude, like back to back. I mean, it's endless trips of exploring, dude. And I mean, endless possibilities of big bass, Chris. When I tell you, and I'm not even lying to you for a second, dude, when I tell you I had, I mean, easy a 9+ fish on multiple times that spit the hook, dude. Like, there's moments where you're screaming at the fish because he's coming up with his mouth open and does a shake and spits your bait, and you're like, "That was the one, dude." You know what I mean?
I'm getting antsy just thinking about it, man. Like I want to be out there right now. I really do, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that lake's phenomenal, dude. I mean, so there's some big gators out there too. I got a video of a big mama gator up on the nest. She was pretty pissed off when we got a little close, but nonetheless, it's cool. I mean, it's like wild Florida. You know, it's a spot that's, I feel, is untouched. It's not overfished. I mean, it gets a lot of pressure, but this thing is so big to where, Chris, like, I see boats passing me. I'm not like fishing next to boats. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
it's there's enough room for everybody. It's really nice, man.
That's good. That's good. So, have you done any saltwater fishing?
Yeah, so I want to say it's about a week now since I got out saltwater, but the inlet's still producing really well. The river's starting to pick up a little bit with a little bit of sea trout. Flounder bite, I was never able to get onto. I mean, I gave it countless hours trying to get on some flounder down here out of this inlet. And, I mean, I've seen guys get lucky off the rocks when they're pitching live bait and just, fishing really close to the rocks. But, dude, I took my boat and ran up and down that inlet, and I tried every trick I had from back north to try and get some of these damn Florida flounder. Could not do it, dude. But big snook nonetheless. Big snooker in there. They're holding close to the rocks. I'm finding them on that slack tide, the difference of, like, the incoming to outgoing. And I'm using artificials, man. I mean, I can show you guys some of the things I'm using.
Well, that's good, man. Well, me personally, I haven't been fishing. I've been on a lot of stuff on my plate lately, and I haven't been out, but I have heard a lot of reports. March 1st opened up the striped bass up here in New Jersey. And a lot of residential fish are being caught already. Nothing with no major size, but I mean, anytime you get out there and bend the rod, no matter what the size is, it's fun. And I'm seeing a lot of fish being caught, and I know that migration is going to start very soon. So today, what we're going to talk about is stuff we like to throw at these fish. You want to go first, or should I?
No, it's fine. I got a whole table here in front of me. Let's start with location, right? So I'm going to start with, say, Chris pulled up at the house and he's got a whole gear bag full of stuff from back north. He's wondering what to throw at the Sebastian Inlet at prime tide, prime time for big snook and redfish. This is what I would put him onto. So first off, right out of the bag is the Z-Mans. So it's the Diesel Minnow. It's one of the larger sizes that they have. It shows you right on the back almost how I hook it, but I have one rigged up here. And Chris knows this is what we were throwing when he came down. I got one of these weighted kind of chin lock hooks, and then it's rigged weedless inside of the bait. So the bait's got a split in it. It hides the hook there. And then I'll run this just as is, slow as possible up along the rocks. And it's got a paddle tail, so you want to speed up your retrieve. I'll speed it up sometimes, slow it down. Try to figure out what the fish is really in the mood for. But that's what I call, guys, find it rig. So find the fish. You're not knowing where they're at in the water column. You don't know if they're out in the moving current or they're squished up against the rocks. You're always safe throwing something weedless to where you're not going to keep losing everything you're throwing at them.
Well, you're definitely ready for the freshwater with that, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A little smaller anyway.
So
And
me
then,
personally,
yeah, go ahead.
I got my three favorite lures right here on the table. I didn't bring everything into the studio because that's just way too much. But I just brought some lures that I like to throw for striped bass, but not only for striped bass. This is something that I would throw at a redfish, at a snook, at sea bass, stuff like this. First, I'm going to start with what we talked about a couple of weeks ago when Tony Maja was on the show. And this is the 3-ounce casting Mojo. It's got hair. Obviously, it wouldn't sit like that once it gets wet. What I do is I toss this out, jig, jig, slow retrieve, jig, jig. And this has got some really nice action, especially with this paddle tail right here. You see that? That's what gives it all the action. And I love this thing. And I've caught in, I don't know how many 40-pound stripers on this. I haven't had the chance to throw it out for snook and reds yet, but definitely I can see this being a big time bait for that as well.
Yeah, for sure. No, for sure.
And
So you want to switch gears? Let's go. Let's go with hard baits, dude. Right. So we'll swim back to hard baits. I got something that I flipped out probably last year, and I was kind of like trying to figure it out, Chris. I wasn't too sure. I was watching a bunch of locals and doing my homework and trying to figure out what color patterns were working. And I came across this lure from Yozori. It's got a diamond shaped bill, and this is super important, dude. Let me tell you why. So the round bills, they seem to fall on their sides in the heavy current. Right? So when the current's ripping and you're throwing around bill, it's literally just kind of like not doing what the lure is designed to do. When you move to one of these diamond-shaped bills, it literally cuts in the current, dude, and stays vibrating when most of the other baits just fall on their side. This literally set me apart from not catching fish to almost every cast with this freaking lure, hooking if it was a small snook or it was a small redfish. I mean, crazy amount of ladyfish. Then some of them big 40-pound, plus snook. Love this friggin' thing, dude. And it's by Yozori, Diamond Bill. Make sure you got the Diamond Bill. And that was my guy.
That's awesome, man. Well, my second go-to is this guy right here. They come in many different colors. They got purple, they got gold, they got blue. But I usually try to stick with the most realistic color of them all. Try to mimic a mullet or a bunker. This is made by a company out in Florida called NLBN, No Live Bait Needed. And what it is it has a corkscrew at the end of the jig head to where you turn the shad into it, and it's not going nowhere. I'm pulling this as hard as I can. Got a great paddle tail on it. Simple. Cast it out. Let it hit the bottom. Figure out where you want to fish at in the water column, but most likely if you're fishing for stripers, you want to go off the bottom. Jig it, retrieve. And I can't tell you how many fish I've caught on this. I've lost count. Literally, this is a great product. Now, mind you guys, when we're talking about products here, Tony is a sponsor and a supporter of the show, but not everything we talk about is a sponsored product or we get paid for it. This is just what we use as fishermen. I only like to promote things that I use. I don't care if they pay me or not. In this case, they don't pay me, but I'm still going to use it anyway because it works for me. This is how I catch fish, and this is how, I get the job done pretty much.
Yeah, no, for sure. A lot of these baits, don't get it wrong. I would love to be, sponsored by some of these companies, depending, but a lot of them, are just baits that I honestly could not go out there without, I'm sure there's mocks and I'm sure there's different companies and brands that I could probably tweak a little bit, but these have been my go-to for years, dude, and I'm going to stick with them. So going back to the soft, this is something that is the most common friggin' lure. And when I tell you it'll be amazing up there for stripers, I know a lot of you guys are like, duh, like I've been using it for years for stripers, but the paddle tails, dude, the swim baits. So these friggin' guys, I underestimated when I moved down here how important these things are for friggin' snook fishing at the inlet, dude. Like, these are a must to have in your bag. And I pick, of course, the little bigger guys than small. But when I started out, Chris, I had, I think, a pack of 3 in my bag from New Jersey that were the small little guys that were like yellow or chartreuse. I caught one of the biggest snook ever on that little small friggin' chartreuse paddle tail. And again, it's a bait that's designed to run real slow. I can run this thing damn near bouncing off the bottom, and I don't have to worry about this hook hooking the rocks. And it's kind of a fine fish lure. So you find where they're at in the water column real fast with this sucker. You can burn it across the top and stay a foot underneath, or you could slow your motion down, and you could even bounce it up and down and do a real slow retrieve. And I don't find myself getting hooked on the rocks as much as I would, bouncing a bucktail. You know what I'm saying? Like these guys, for some reason, they hit nose down and come right back up. So most simplest bait you can buy at Walmart,
It's such a simple bait and it's so effective. I mean, up until I discovered the NLBNs, that was all I used was tsunami swim baits.
Man.
It's just it's tried and proven. It's just nothing really special, but yet it gets the job done always.
Right.
So
for sure.
The last lure on my table that I want to talk about has become my actual new favorite lure. It's made by a company called Nomad Designs. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of them, but for those who haven't, this is their. They use this thing and they call it a vibing technique. This is the smaller one. I usually go with the bigger profile. That's it right there. And it's basically a swim shad. It's got the weight on the inside, but the weight is pitched up front. So this can. But this bait to me is just so versatile. You can use this in saltwater, in freshwater, brackish water, and I guarantee you will catch any type of species that you will go for with this. I'm 100% sure largemouth bass will bite this. I know striped bass bite this. I am 100% sure redfish and snook will bite this. I've caught sea bass on it as well. This is just a great lure. I mean, as far as price point, they're affordable, and I can't see anything better right now in the market. Just in my opinion, I mean that is one badass design, and it works really, really good.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're sitting here and you're listening to us and you don't really kind of, can't really visualize what he's talking about, this bait, it's, again, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, this bait is designed to drop down, and when you retrieve, it does a crazy twitch, like a super badass vibrate, to where it kind of promotes a reaction strike, right?
But what I like about it is the moment it hits the water, from the moment you cast out to the moment it hits the water, it's already giving its action. Like even the way that it flutters down, it's like you're already fishing the second you hit the water. It's not like I gotta wait for it to hit the bottom and do this and that. No, the moment it hits the water, you're fishing it. You're already working the entire column all the way down, every column, and it's just great. I love it.
These things are pretty, guys. I'm not even going to joke, man. These things are really nice looking. Chris had given me one of these things, and I'm telling you, I don't even want to throw it. The damn things look so good. But let me spin you back here again to the Sebastian Inlet. One of my third go-tos, right? So we're talking about 3 favorites. If I only had 3, this would be my last one that I would choose out of my tackle box. And again, it's by Yozori. Yozori has always been one of my favorite companies to go with. It's one of their twitching minnows. So again, you can kind of, think about it as a nomad thing. You can kind of think about it as a swim bait thing, but it doesn't sink. It kind of free suspends. It goes down maybe about a foot, 2 foot. And then as you pull, this thing's got a bead in the nose, and it's got hell of reflectiveness to it, to where it just twitches back up. So you can work this thing a bunch of different ways. You can kind of go walk the dog motion underneath, about a foot underneath of the water column, or you can let her dive and then just do twitches as you retrieve. I find, Chris, sometimes when these snook are super finicky, dude, and they won't hit any of my fine fish lures, like, the Z-Man plastics or the swim baits, if I throw one of these super realistic twitches in their face, they usually take it, dude. It's usually one of them baits where nothing else is working, and I'm seeing people catch fish, and I'm getting pissed off, and I'm like, what is it that I'm doing? I throw one of these guys on, and they make them in a bunch of different sizes, a bunch of different colors. I got one here that's a little smaller than this, and it's in a mullet pattern. And I mean, just 2 treble hooks, guys, and it's basically a semi-submersible twitch bait, by Yozori. And that's my third go-to.
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I never got into the plugs and the twitch baits and stuff like that, and poppers and bombers and stuff like that. Never really got into that style of fishing. I like to work deeper into the water column. I mean, don't get me wrong, a top water bite is freaking awesome, man. But it's just, I don't know, it just never was my thing.
Yeah, if you literally told me I can only do one thing for the rest of my life, and I had to pick one type of fishing, I would pick nothing more than throwing top water spooks, dude, for any kind of species. Like, that is I literally only had saltwater gear when I went out to headwaters, maybe a couple little, fresh waters, but I threw all of my spooks, dude. Spook juniors, the big guys, and I caught big bass on spooks, dude. And it was, there's nothing like it, Chris. Big, explosive sunrise, fish on a spook, dude. Nothing like it.
I hear you. Well, I decided to bring this up on the podcast today because I get asked all the time, what do you use? What do you use? I just showed you the 3 things that 99 or 98 or 99% of the time, this is what I'm throwing. And people are probably watching this and saying, that's it? You're not really throwing anything else? And that's the God's honest truth. I really don't throw anything else. Now, what makes the reason why I throw this better and different than everybody else is because I have a little bit of a secret weapon that I put on it. And I don't care what anybody says, man. It's all about the stink. I put this on everything I throw.
Yeah, that's an old school one. That's an old school one, guys.
This is finessence. Now, you have the bunker smell, you have the shrimp smell, you have the shredder crab and clam. Me, I usually use bunker because 90% of the stuff that we target eat bunker. So this is what I do. I will take these paddle tails, put it into a water sealed Plano box, and I'll just let this soak in there. That's all I do. And then when I come out, yes, it's very oily, but let me tell you something. That scent will stay on there for about 30 casts, and I can't complain. Majority of my fishing is, besides blackfish or tog, I use artificials on everything. Now, if somebody asks me, "Hey, take me fishing. I want to catch a fish." So obviously, you're not going to put a beginner on using an artificial, because if you really want them to catch, you want them to experience that joy of catching a fish, you don't want to put them on live bait. So for this time of year, my main go-to would be, if I was using live bait, I would take the circle hook, because now that's the dumbest regulation I've ever heard, but you can only fish for striped bass using circle hook. So what you do is you take 2 bloodworms, put on the hook, start to wrap. Take 2 sandworms, make it a wrap. Use some clam tie. Now, before you clam tie it, what I do is I have a little piece of rag that is soaking in this. That's what's going to attract the fish. Put it all up in there, clam tie everything, cast it out. Now, there's times where I'm fishing and I got 3 guys to my left, 3 or 4 guys to my right, and we're all fishing the same exact thing. But my rod is the one bending every single 10, 15 minutes. And they're just like, what the hell are you doing different? And I just stay quiet. It's all about the stink. And let me tell you something. This little bottle is $8.99. It's expensive, but let me tell you something. Your hookup ratio will go from maybe 10 or 15% to about 40 to 48%. I'm going to guarantee that. I'm a firm believer in this stench right here.
Yeah, and I mean, guys, you guys just, he gave you a little Chris secret there, because when this man told me this, I have never heard such a thing, but I could imagine like all the nights that I spent fishing from the surf for stripers, that technique would have saved me so much freaking bait and so much bloodworm when, like, you got the little small sea bass or the small blues or even whiting picking off the bloodworm from the hook, and you're constantly retying or rebaiting, dude. Like, yeah, crabs. I mean, that's definitely a key. But Chris, I'm not even joking. I must have been probably 12, 13 years old when I first found myself some of that oil, and I found it at Dolphin Docks in New Jersey, man. And they had cheddar crab scent, and after I experienced what it was like without it, and then what it was like catching flounder with it, I mean, it definitely added a whole nother level to what I thought mattered. And I would not go out without a little fucking bottle of that Finesse's oil, dude, to be honest with you.
Yeah, let's be honest, man. The price of worms are beyond ridiculous. I mean, the last time I bought worms, I think a dozen ran me like $14 or $15.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So when you make this worm ball, I make it sound like it's huge because it is. My worm balls are about that big, and but let me tell you something. I'll get 6, 7, maybe 8 fish per ball.
That's crazy.
You know what I'm saying? So I'll make out of a dozen sandworms and a dozen bloodworms, I'll probably make anywhere from 10 to 14 balls. And it'll last me a week.
Right. That's wild.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But, dude, you know firsthand when that striper bite is on, it's on.
Yeah, and I mean, the clam string that you're talking about using, like the floss, I wasn't put on to that till maybe, I don't know, well, we're going back some time now, so about 7 years ago, but that was my first, like, realization into, like, dude, I'm wasting bait. Like, without clam string, you are literally throwing bait to the wind because, I mean, again, you got small fish, you got crabs, or just your freaking hard-ass cast is winging some of that clam off when you're doing it. You use that freaking clam string, dude. I mean, you just...
And it's so cheap, man. It's 99 cents.
No, my buddy put me onto that. That's wild. That's really good.
But a good friend of mine, he was on the original season of the podcast here in episode 5, Chuck Time Man Manning. He is exclusively a fresh bait kind of guy, and he explained some things to me. It's just the most simplest things, but make the most sense. And a lot of people don't do it because, let's face it, a lot of fishermen, and I'm guilty of this as well, are lazy. We'll chop up a piece of bunker, we'll throw it on a hook, fling it out there. Now, when you fling it out there, what happens, especially to that middle section of the bunker that you chopped out? The guts go flying that way, and your hook and bait go that way, right? If you would have just took some clam tie and sealed that up, because the guts are what you want in there. Right. That's what's attracting the fish, is that scent, hey, something smells because I want to eat it. Now, if the guts are not in there, what makes you think they're going to be attracted to that?
Right.
They're going to go looking for the guts that flew 30 feet that way.
Yeah. I will tell you, though, my favorite piece of bunker, it's not the tail cut, but it's the one right after the tail cut. I was running for that one, dude. Like, that was always my go-to. And I had my uncle ran a charter out of Cape May for many years. And he would always say, if there's a scale on that hook when you go through with your bunker, dude, he goes, you will not catch a fish. He had such like a phobia of one scale. You know how you get a scale on the tip of the hook? Yeah. He would lose his shit if he saw you cast that with that scale on the hook, dude. Yeah. But hey, again, some people it's one way, some people it's another. But I mean, we're giving great techniques here for the first time guys. I mean, it's a way to save bait when bait is expensive. It's a way to conserve what you're doing and increase your odds at fishing, which any fisherman is trying to do, beginner or newbie, or seasoned vet.
When I do go striped bass fishing, which, to be honest with you, a lot of people are going to look at me or think that I'm weird for saying this. I'm not really that into striped bass fishing. In my opinion, it's just a stupid saltwater carp. That's just, because you get that initial... maybe 30, 45 seconds. Sometimes you're lucky you get a minute of it running, and then it's just reeling in dead weight, because striped bass is not a fighting fish. It's just a power fish. And when it gets tired, that power is done, But, it is something that my father likes to eat a lot. So I enjoy bringing him some. And when I'm chasing one, especially one with some decent size, I like to throw out the head. And another thing that Chucky taught me, time in, when you chop that big piece of head off, I don't use just the actual head. I keep a little bit of the body on there, but I take out the gill plates so that way scent comes out through the gill plates. And that's just another trick he taught me, and it works. And I'd be lying if I didn't say that I didn't put some of this in there either, because I do.
I gotta tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I absolutely love striped bass, and it literally was going to be the defining factor of me moving back from Florida to New Jersey, because chasing striped bass, it literally is something that is inbred with me. It's like in my soul, and I mean, I can't. I even chasing snook and reds. The migration of stripers is like something that I live for. And if I didn't find this freaking freshwater lake called Headwaters, guys, I think I'd be back sitting on the other side of this computer with Chris right now, because I love it that damn much. But
Yeah,
we'll share all that for the next episode.
I'm pretty sure I just hurt your feelings saying that, but and I'm sorry, I can't help
A
it.
little bit. Just a little
Like one of the fish that I enjoy chasing, enjoy catching. I don't eat it because I've had it every way possible that I can make it, and I still think it tastes disgusting. But in my opinion, catching bluefish on a light tackle is probably one of the funnest fisheries that we have here in Jersey.
Yeah.
And I love that, especially when you catch some of those big gator blues, like the 16 to the 20 pounders. They're freaking humongous, and it's awesome.
Yeah, Chris, we had a year, I want to say it was maybe 2015, 2016, where they came into the Great Bay in New Jersey, dude. And I'm not exaggerating for a second when I say this. The bay was filled with like football field size schools of bluefish. When we would run down the markers, the schools were so thick, dude. We didn't know we were in them, but we would hit them with the prop. And we'd be like, what are we hitting? We're hitting the ground? We'd look back, and there was literally bloody chunks of bluefish floating up, dude, because they were that thick in the bay. Yeah. Oh, my God, Chris. There's no better light tackle fishery other than maybe some albies. But, bluefish are a good one for sure.
The albies and the bonitas, man, that's something that is just so damn fun to catch.
Yeah, definitely not good eating, but,
Yeah, I mean, the actual bonitas, what we call up here the bonitas, that is some of the best tasting fish I've ever eaten.
Really?
Yeah, like the actual Atlantic bonita, not the false albacore.
Yes.
That is delicious, but don't get me wrong, my pops is straight, European, and he loves eating that false albacore. It's all about the way you cook it, and it's good stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try some.
My very first time going to Florida a couple years ago when I went to the Keys, the first fish that I caught was a false albacore. And I hear the captain scream, "Oh, you got a bonita!" And I'm like, "Bonita? Shit, we're gonna eat good tonight."
Right.
I'm like, "The false albacore." He's like, "Nah, down here we call them bonita." I'm like, "Bro, you're from Jersey too, man. That's a goddamn false albacore. You better stop playing with me."
That's awesome.
But yeah, I can't tell you how many times I caught Jersey style fish in Florida, the sea bass, the dogfish, the bluefish. Yeah. And it's just like, God dang, I came 1,300 miles away and I'm still catching the same freaking species of fish.
Well, talking about, New Jersey fish in Florida, I can't stress enough for the new guys that are moving down here to Florida and you're, trying to adapt to this fishery and not really knowing what to throw. I hope this podcast helped, but I will tell you, your bucktails, I still have a box of bucktails sitting here in front of me, guys. I mean, I have a ton of freaking bucktails. They make them by a bunch of different makers. And throwing a finesse on the back of these things, maybe some finesse oil to top it off a little bit, but you could just throw a bare bucktail out here in some of these friggin' inlets, especially Sebastian, on the right tide and murder some snook and reds, man. I mean, this is a lot of guys' go-to, so don't think what you have in your tackle box isn't going to work and you got to buy all new, because I found that out the hard way.
Let me tell you something, though, man. I've been down there and I've seen some of the manufacturers for bucktails. And I'm serious, man. Florida really, really needs to import some S&S bucktails down there.
I got one here in front of me. You kidding me? I mean, the knots, the ties on these things. I mean, come on, dude. But listen, I get it. Okay, it is what it is. They're cheap. I mean, guy tried, but they're not S&S quality. I will tell you that. They're not some of the northern guys' quality. I mean, it's quite ridiculous, Chris. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, there's a company down there, and I'm not going to name their name, but
Right.
there's a company down there that Floridians will freaking kill you if you talk crap about it. But let me tell you something. It's some of the worst turd-looking lures that I've seen, but yet the Florida fishermen, they love them and they'll live and die by them. But which I don't get it, because it looks like a 5-year-old took some Play-Doh and just threw it through glitter, and that was it.
I hear you.
But,
I hear you.
and I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. But
I got about 6 or 7 of them in my box. I get it. I get it.
and I don't want to talk bad or because that's just not me. But at the end of the day, really.
And listen. It all comes down to when, where. I mean, temperature, tide, the works. There's a lure for every condition. There's a fish for every lure, right? I truly believe that. And when it comes down to this one we're talking about, there is a right time. There is a right fish, and I've proven it, dude, because I was right there with you. I'm like, no way in hell am I going to run this friggin' train that everybody's riding on. But I bought a ticket. I rode it. The fish bite it. So it's
Let me tell you something. When you said that phrase right there, that there's a fish for every lure or a lure for every fish, and it just I glanced over to my right and I looked at it. Now, Nomad, if you're hearing this, you better send me a check because I found the lure for every fish right here, and I love this damn thing. All right, so Nomad owes me a check for the promo, but let me tell you something. This is it right here, brother.
I just want a shirt, Nomad. Them shirts look badass, so I need a shirt and a hat.
A shirt with the pocket on the side that has a check in it. Now I'm good.
Hey, there you go. There you go.
Oh man, so we're gonna wrap this up right here, guys. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, smash that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe. It's free. If you're listening to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, leave a comment and a review. Let us know what you think. He's Aaron. I'm Chris, and we're out. Tight lines.
Shad.